Hi guys, it's Marissa here, author of The Rise High Investor and Passionate Property Investor, and I bring you these weekly videos so that you can achieve your property investment goals. Today I'm talking about subdivision. I often get lots of questions about subdivision, and I want to tell you today about the steps involved in ensuring that you have a profitable subdivision. The first step is to understand your borrowing capacity. Before you undertake any project, you want to know how much you can afford to borrow and how much you can afford to spend on a project to make it work. In analysing this, you will have to work out, what your potential rental income or sale price will be for the properties once they're finished, once the subdivision's finished and they're built. Okay, so that's step number one. So make sure you involve your mortgage broker in that step and make sure you have a really good grasp on the numbers. Step number two is finding the right property. That is, if you don't already hold it. So if you are looking for a property that's good for subdivision or development, you're really looking for something that's on a large land allotment. I like to look for something that's minimum 750 square meters depending on zoning, and you also want to find something with large street frontage, so minimum of 7 to 8 meters of street frontage per dwelling. Sometimes in some zonings you can get by with a little bit less street frontage, but it really depends on where you're looking to buy. The other things that are really good to look for are large driveways, so driveways that are greater than 4 meters wide, because these can often suggest that you could do hammerhead type subdivisions, which can be good as well. And you want to make sure that you'll save money if you can find a property that has level or just gently sloping land. So some properties with opportunity are, large corner blocks, obviously, that can be subdivided easily, or blocks with wide driveways and large backyards that you can do your hammerhead style. Or the other thing that I like to do is play Monopoly in real life, and I like to buy properties that are next door to ones that I already own, which gives me a larger parcel of land to play with and more opportunities as a result. So once you've found the property, or if you've identified the property in your portfolio that you want to subdivide or develop, the next step is really to speak to council about zoning, about the development plan, and about your subdivision options. Council are always really helpful. If you speak to the planning department and tell them what you want to do with the site, they will be more than happy to give you some initial guidance and some initial advice about whether your desire will actually fit within the development plan of the council area, or whether you're way off and you need to go back to the drawing board. And this is a really helpful step before you start spending any money on surveyors and architects to actually get the plans done. So once you've spoken to council and you've got the go ahead and council have said, yep, on the face of it, that would be something that we would consider, then you really want to plan and cost out the subdivision development, including the holding costs. Okay, so it's really important at this point to really look at the nuts and bolts. I know we touched on the numbers up front, but now we're going into more detail. We're going into all the detail about how much a subdivision is going to cost, how long it's going to take, and what we're going to be looking at the end. Okay, and this is a really important step in the process. The next step after we do that is we want to research, rental and house values of renovated houses nearby. The reason why we're doing that is we really want to make sure that our estimates are accurate, so that we can really accurately estimate what our return on investment is going to be for this subdivision. So let's say, for example, we're going to subdivide a site, we're going to hold on to the properties long term, and we're going to rent them out. We want to know what our rental return will be, and we want to compare that to the investment that we've made in the subdivision to make sure that we're getting a strong enough return on our investment. Similarly, if you plan to sell them after you complete the subdivision, you want to know what you can sell them for realistically to make sure that you're going to achieve the right return on investment. Okay? Next, once you've done all the numbers, once you know you can do what you want to do, then you can get a pre-approval and work out the ownership structure. Now, with the ownership structure, ideally you would have already thought about this before you actually buy the land. If you haven't thought about it before you buy the land, at the point in time when you demolish the existing house, that might be a good time to consider changing the ownership structure if you need to. It's not ideal because it will incur, stamp duty and capital gains tax potentially, but it's better than doing it then than having it in the wrong ownership structure at the end of the subdivision. So you want to make sure that you've got a pre-approval for your finance and that you've got the ownership structure right. Of course, you can get a pre-approval much earlier on in the process of the steps that I've talked about, but make sure that you get that pre-approval so that you know that your finances are secure. Okay, so at that point, you can then get your subdivision plans drawn up. Okay, so you've got to work with an architect or a builder with an in-house architect that will ensure that you're meeting the development plan, or if you're pushing the boundaries, that they can justify it. You know, we need to ensure that you've got adequate setbacks and, you know, enough private open space to make sure that you're going to get your plans approved. Sometimes the approval process can take a lot longer than you think, especially if you are trying to push the boundaries of the development plan. So just be aware of that and factor that into your holding costs, okay? Once you get council approval for the demolition and the subdivision and development, you can then obviously start construction, which is very exciting. I like to work with banks that will allow me to complete the subdivision at the end, which means that although I get subdivision approval up front, you know, the subdivision process does not have to be completed until the building is completed. That allows me to delay the cost of subdivision for a few months, which I find attractive. But you may also find that there are some benefits of bringing the subdivision forward and subdividing into titles before you begin construction. So you've got to work out with your conveyancer, with your surveyor, with your mortgage broker, which option is going to work best for you. Not only from getting finance, but also from working out what is going to be more cost effective long term. Okay, so then you've done that, you've built your properties, you've completed the project. At the end of the project, make sure that you get the properties at the end value. Once you've finished, make sure you get them revalued. Okay, if you are planning to hold on to them, this is a really important step in the process. Get them valued once they're finished, and it's a good opportunity for you to look at refinancing them. Not necessarily to a different bank, but maybe just a different product, because it's likely that the finance product that you've used to fund the subdivision and development is not necessarily the cheapest and most effective finance facility available for now, just a holding type property investment. So make sure that you get your finance right once the subdivision project is finished. I guess overall, just realize that these projects do take time, you know, and ensure that you have factored in sufficient holding costs, and also ensure that you factored in a buffer. You know, I like to factor in a 15 to 20% buffer, because I know with these projects, they always run over time and they're always more expensive than initially budgeted. So make sure that you've allowed for those things in your planning. And if you're inexperienced and this is your first or second subdivision, I really recommend that you get the help of someone who's done it before, and that you make sure that you're getting the right advice. So I hope that helps you. I hope that you've gotten value out of today. I'd love to hear from you. If you have any comments, questions, or thoughts, you can email me directly at propertyinvestor@risehigh.com.au. And as a thank you for tuning in, you can actually grab a copy of my book for half price on the website risehighinvestor.com.au and enter in the code word video. So thank you for tuning in. I will see you next week. Bye.